Greetings, Glitter Gang. Happy Thursday. You're watching Kathryn Scraps Live. I'm Kathryn, and we're live on Thursday, October 29th, 2020. And this is the last Thursday of October, which means that today is book club. So for today's book club discussion, we'll be discussing A Man Called Uva by Frederick Backman. And we'll also be continuing work on the Halloween Folio Squawktagon. In addition to that, I will be announcing the book selections for November, which you'll start voting on beginning tomorrow in the Facebook group, and for December, so that you can put those books on hold if you so choose. And I have one more thing to say before I get into that, which is that, as you know from last week, we are having a major malfunction with our video card, which is the primary power source in a computer for the type of broadcasting and streaming that we do. It is subject to crash at any time, essentially, if it feels like it. We could not get a replacement in a timely fashion. The soonest this will be resolved is November 12th. If the show just abruptly stops, like I'm in the middle of a sentence or I'm in the middle of doing something and I just stop and don't come back, that's what happened. The video card crashed. I can recover from these crashes. So far, we have been able to recover from these crashes. So if it does stop suddenly, then that show is done for that time period. So if like it's the afternoon show, then the afternoon show is over if we have a crash like that. However, I will be able to get it back probably if things continue to go as they have been before the evening show, and we will have an evening show. Last week, that said, didn't crash either show. Great work, video card. So it may not crash at all. Who knows? So with that said, let's talk about book club for November and December, just so that's at the beginning of the video if you need to rewatch to get those titles. Let me open my video card. Not my video card. I'm not going to open my video card. It's been through enough. Let me open my library app so I can tell you what's what. All right. So the theme for November was books that center food. All right. Books that center food. So we have as option number one, let me not reflect. See, now I can reflect the light into your eyes. Delicious by Ruth Reichel, which is about the food magazine industry, I believe. So this is option number one for November, and the voting for this, of course, starts tomorrow, and it'll be open all weekend, and then I'll announce the winner on Monday. So, and that'll be the November book. So, book number one, Delicious by Ruth Reichel. Book number two is Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe by Fanny Flagg. Fried Green Tomatoes at the Whistle Stop Cafe by Fanny Flagg is book number two for November. And book number three is The School of Essential Ingredients by Erica Bauermeister. The School of Essential Ingredients by Erica Bauermeister is book number three. And I believe Judy has read this and said there is a Thanksgiving meal cooked in this. So this one may be the most on point, the most thematic, certainly for the Americans at any rate. But all three books are considered to be excellent books. So I don't think there's any like bad apples in this bunch, to use a food metaphor. So those are the November choices. Voting will open for those tomorrow and will run all weekend. And then on Monday, I will announce the book that won, and then you'll have until the last Friday in November. Or the last Thursday. Well, you won't have until the last Thursday in November, because I'm pretty sure the last Thursday in November is actually Thanksgiving. I won't be doing a show. Yes, it is. So you'll have until November 19th. So you only have 3 weeks this month. You only have 3 weeks to read, not 4. But that's okay. I have faith in you. I have faith in all of you that you can do it. Candy says they cook weird in the School of Essential Ingredients. So I guess we'll find out what kind of a weird Thanksgiving dinners they're making in there. So, okay, so those are the 3 books for November. And then I'm also going to tell you the 3 books for December so that you can put them on hold at your library for those of you whose libraries tend to have longer hold times. And they are all retellings or in some way related to A Christmas Carol. But A Christmas Carol is not one of them. And the reason why is because A Christmas Carol is very short, and I'm going to challenge you to read it and whatever book is chosen for December. So 2 books. 2 books. That being said, if you don't feel like reading A Christmas Carol, I feel like we all kind of know the basic plot and major themes of A Christmas Carol. So if you don't want to read it again, you know, and refresh, you don't have to. You know A Christmas Carol, okay? You know A Christmas Carol. You're fine. You're fine. And that would be A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, of course. So the 3 books for December are The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. That is The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. And this book is about people who die and have to haunt their loved ones at Christmas time. So Holly Chase has become basically Jacob Marley. She has the same job as Jacob Marley from A Christmas Carol. So that's The Afterlife of Holly Chase by Cynthia Hand. So Jacob Marley is not just like a one-time deal. He's part of a cadre of ghosts who that's their job. And so that's Holly Chase. She is also a Jacob Marley type of character. So yeah, exactly. You can all also just watch your favorite version of A Christmas Carol. Exactly. Yeah. Just whatever your favorite version of it is. Yeah. Yeah. You're good. You're good. Okay. So next is Mr. Dickens and His Carol by Samantha Silva. Book number 2 for December. Remember, December is Mr. Dickens and His Carol by Samantha Silva. My understanding is that this is a historical fiction about the inspiration for A Christmas Carol. So the main character is Charles Dickens, and it's about how he wrote A Christmas Carol, or what inspired him to write A Christmas Carol. So that's Mr. Dickens and His Carol by Samantha Silva. And then the 3rd book is Jacob T. Marley by R. William Bennett. So Jacob T. Marley by R. William Bennett. And I believe it's the events of A Christmas Carol from Jacob Marley's perspective instead of Ebenezer Scrooge. I think it will cover their time in school together and their partnership, as well as Jacob's haunting and why he has been put in that position. And so it's just a different look at the same story. That's what they all are, more or less. So those are that's Jacob T. Marley by R. William Bennett. So those are the 3 books for December. Okay, and then for December, we're probably going to have to discuss it early as well. Let me look at December's calendar. So November's book discussion will be on Thursday, November 19th. And December's book discussion will be on Thursday, December 17th, because December 24th, well, no. I was going to say, because December 24th is a Thursday, but December has 5 Thursdays, so we could do it on the 31st. So would you rather do it before Christmas on the 17th, or would you rather do it after Christmas on the 31st? Probably better before Christmas to read A Christmas Carol. So, before you're over the holidays. So let's just do it on the 17th. They'll be a month apart. Right? Although I guess you don't know what you're reading until December 31st. So maybe we'll vote on December early so you have 4 weeks so that November's your only short one. Okay? So December 17th will be that discussion. So once again, today is A Man Called Uva by Frederick Backman. November's discussion will be on the 19th, and it will be one of those 3 books that I already told you. You'll vote on it this weekend. I'll announce the winner on Monday. And December will be on the 17th. It'll be one of those 3 books I just told you. You'll vote 4 weeks out. And, oh no, you can't vote 4 weeks out because that's Thanksgiving. Whatever. It's fine. We'll figure it out. You'll be fine. I have faith in you. We're gonna, you know. Oh, we'll vote on the 20th, 21st, and 22nd of November for December. That way you're voting before Thanksgiving instead of the weekend after Thanksgiving. All right, so that's the schedule for books. All right. So those are all my announcementos. Let's say hi to everyone. Let's say hi. So the first person I have a hello from is Gretchen. I don't know if she was first or if I'm just like way behind in the chat. Fran says that she is here too. Welcome, Fran. Hello and happy Thursday to Mitty and Priya, Gigi and Bev. Joy says she remembered this afternoon. She was in the shed, but she remembered, so now she's back. And then we've got, let's see, Sandra says, hello, Glitter Gang, and happy birthday, Priya. Happy birthday, Priya. We've got Melanie and Kimberly, and Candy says, happy Glitter Day Thursday, gang. Lots of birthdays for Priya. Deb says, happy Thursday, and if anyone was affected by the hurricane yesterday, she hopes you're safe and well today. Yes, poor Louisiana. They've had a really nasty hurricane season this year. Those poor things. The 3 in a row. 3 in a row. And in about a month, I think. It's been pretty awful. We were fine. No need to worry about us. Okay. Catherine says, happy Thursday, everyone. Happy Thursday to you too, Catherine, and to Lori. Judy says, yes, it's book discussion day. Sally Ann Snickerbocker says, hello, Catherine and everyone. She's also not that Martha. And Mary Gilmartin says, sorry she's late. And Cindy Spire says, hello, ladies. So hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to put an emoji in the chat, and then I'm going to tell you what the emoji is. And then based on that emoji, you'll know if you're in a ghost chat or not. So I have just posted a cat in a box in the chat. So if you can see a cat in the box in the chat, then you are not in a cornfield. If you can't see a cat in the box, then you may in fact be in a cornfield, and it's probably haunted because it is October. So be careful. All right. So let us then just get started with this. Now, I read A Man Called Uva a long time ago. I think I read it in September, actually. I think I was like just super way ahead of schedule. And I wasn't able to get it from my library, but my library did have available summary and analysis, so at least that's better than nothing. I was able to refresh myself on the major details, and it does have this section in the back about the major themes, so we can talk about some of those themes as well. But before we get into that, I need to make a template. I want to make a template for this. And I'm trying to figure out how to do it. You know, how to figure out how exactly to make a template for this. Because I traced the circle, but I'm struggling with how to math to figure out exactly where to cut the circle. You know what I mean? I guess it's just however high it is up on the thing. Maybe I'm overcomplicating it in my tiny brain. So if I put the holes at the bottom of it, it looks like it's 3 3/8, almost exactly. The holes are 3 3/8 inches up from the bottom. So, all right, let's see. Holes equal 3 3/8 up from bottom. Okay. And then the whole thing is what? Looks like 7.5, I think. Yeah, 7.5 by probably 8.5. Yeah, 7.5 by 8.5. So the whole piece of pattern paper would be 8.25 by 7.25. But the 3 3/8 inch holes would not be 3 3. They're 3 3/8 inches up from the bottom of the cardstock, so we have to cut 1/8 of an inch off of that. So the holes are 3 1/4 inches up from this, from the bottom of this. So they're 3 1/4. So what we'll do is we'll draw a line, you know, and we'll center this and we'll go from there. So we just need to pick our pattern paper. So we need to think about what we want, you know, kind of like framing our behind our cemetery tombstones here, because we cut them to go there, and we made the holes to match that. So we want something that will be a nice behind the graves. Do 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 do. Or do I want to have what's inside the half circle be slightly different from what's outside it? What do I want to do? Maybe we'll put this behind the gravestones. Like as a half moon. And then for the rest of it, put these ravens. All right. I'm just gonna flip through the other papers that are on the front, because I don't know what I divided the two sets of papers based on. I don't know if it's like, I mean, we could use this one again, and there maybe we have a scrap of that. I don't think we do, though. I don't think we do. Yeah, let's not start reusing papers already, or cutting into new papers already. That looks like that's what the division is. So let's go to the scraps and see if something jumps out here. Anything in here. All right. Okay, so Got those. We do still have this, that kind of moon looking paper, but that's the same pattern that's on the graves, so I don't think it's gonna be the right answer. This is gonna be hard to get to where the stars would actually be in the circle. Because the arc of the stars is different, so like we'd only get just the veriest edge of them. So this is not gonna be the right answer either. Okay, now we've got these, but this might be like way too, yeah, that's way too busy. Now this could work on as the what's around the frame, and then this cemetery could be on something on the black. Just have like a little square of black in the middle there, but I don't know that I like that more than I like this combination. Like this combination is much busier. Now for the wallpaper, I mean, we could literally do something wallpapery, you know, and have the cemetery sitting on like this plaid or that stripe, or even this floral. And that could be interesting. I kind of like it on the plaid. And again, this would be behind it in the arc. So that could be very different. Although, if we're strictly speaking, it does kind of look better with the ravens than it does. Let's just do what I was originally going to do. Let's just do that. Let's just go with it. Let's just go with it. Okay. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a 8 1/4 by 7 1/4 inch piece of this. Okay. So this is going to go here. I'm going to move all this stuff for just a second here. So what we need to do now is we need to trace the arc on this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just put a little dab of ATG at the top and at the bottom. Seriously? Now I gotta change you. Why? Why are you like this, you punk? Okay. So now that's not going to surprise me the next time I go to use it. And I'm going to stick this in place where I want it on here. So I'm just going to line it up where I want it. And press it into place at the top and the bottom so it's stuck. Then I'm going to hold this down and I'm going to trace where this is. This. Okay. All right, now I just peel this off. And I'm going to get the same curve that I used to make it, which I think is this one. Maybe. Maybe not. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to have to move it a little bit. So I want to make a groove for, you know, the paper needs to go you know, 1/8 of an inch in all the way around. And you got to do this on both sides, okay? So you need one on the inside and you need one on the outside. And gonna go ahead and just freehand this outside one. Like that. All right. So now we have to just draw a line from the dot to the dot, because we're gonna, that's where we're gonna make our cuts. From the bottoms of the dots, from the bottoms of the dots. Okay. So now what we have to do, so this is what it looks like, okay? We're gonna have to cut both pencil lines, but both pencil lines. We're gonna cut out like a smiley face. And along that line, I'm going to punch the holes for the two pencil lines so that, you know, it doesn't, the cut doesn't run too far. All right, so now that's how you do it. Okay, so now I just have to cut this basically. So I'm going to use my craft knife. Okay, so now we have this cut out here, and if I've done this correctly, I should be able to see that I've done it correctly. Well, no, I need to cut the outside one in order to be able to see, right? Yeah, I won't be able to see it. Well, we'll just have to hope for the best. All right. Now I should be able to just cut on the line from dot to dot, and I'm going to remove this little window. So when I set this back down on the page, there should be, and there is, a channel. See? How there's like a arc? How that arc runs in the middle. So now we just have to glue this down. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put tape around the outside and then along this, you know, and kind of in here. And then I'm going to use liquid glue just on the edges of the arch. All right. So there you go. It's the same time as the Super Bowl. So the Scrappy Bowl is the same date as the Super Bowl. Every year, that never ever changes. So whenever the Super Bowl is. I don't know, you know, that's, if you ever want to know what time Scrappy Bowl is, all you have to do is look up the times for the Super Bowl. They are playing football, so I assume there's going to be a Super Bowl. So, because I don't know. I'm not the one that sets the date. It is the NFL that sets the date. But it's usually the first Sunday in February, I think, is when they do the Super Bowl. So now if that changes this year, you know, then we'll change. But that's how you know when Scrappy Bowl is. It's when the Super Bowl is. The first Sunday in February, yeah. It seems like Scrappy Bowl is always at the beginning of February to me. So, February 7th, 2021. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to peel all the tape. Then I'm going to add the glue. And then I'm going to stick this down. Now remember, everyone, you want to root for the Buccaneers to get in the Super Bowl this year so that we can have good drinks. so we can have good drinks. You know, they can be playing your favorite team. All right? You know, but they should be your backup. So that we can have tasty bevs. Tasty bevies. Oh no, I put the glue and I didn't ink it. Ugh, that's irritating. So then wipe the glue off with your apron. Then clean your desk. Your hand sticks to everything. Yay! Yay! The Dodgers did win the World Series. That was very sad. I mean, I guess we already won the Stanley Cup, so I shouldn't be stingy. But so now I have to ink this while it's sticking to me, which is great. So while I try to recover from this, let's do a plot summary of a man called Uwe. Oh my gosh, please stop. Just stop. Just stop. Just calm down and stop trying to stick to everything. Just relax. I'm gonna get you stuck to something. Sometimes you just have to be firm with your supplies. You know. Sometimes that's the key to matting success. Hopefully the Chiefs will be in the Super Bowl again this year and I can make all the people from Kansas mad again. All right, now that it's inked, put the glue on the back in the arch. Cereal milk, yeah, cereal milk was that was for the LA Rams. That was their fault. All right, so all right. All right, so I was gonna say, we're talking about the cereal milk again. One of the more infamous Kathryn Scraps moments, I think, was the cereal milk. Okay. All right, so now we have this framed. And really what I should have done, this is annoying. Before I stuck this down, I should have put the pattern paper on it, because now I have to get the pattern paper on this in this arch. Urgh. Okay. All right, so before you stick yours down, cover the arch with your coordinating cardstock. Cover the arch with your coordinating cardstock. Because now I'm going to have to figure that out. So, yeah, okay. So while I wrestle with that, we'll talk about the book. All right, so the main character of A Man Called Uva is Uva by Frederick Bachman, or is Uva. And he is, I found out he's 59 from the summary, and that didn't like penetrate my brain when I was reading it the first time. I thought he was older than that for some reason. So that was kind of interesting. To find out. So he's 59. Now, he was laid off from his construction job because of a medical condition, where he has a heart problem. Yeah, he definitely seemed older to me. Let me see if I can find that smiley face in my recycling bin, which... Here it is. Yeah, Priya says she thought he'd be older. I thought he would be older. But I guess, you know, early retirement. The problem with using this as a template is it's so small. I don't know if it's distorted or not. I'm going to try my best. So yeah, so we want it to be, the Super Bowl, you want it to be Chiefs versus Bucks. So that we can be like, you know, you can either have a mojito or you can eat raw corn on the cob. So that was one of the things that the Kansans got mad at me for, was like the whole implication that all they do in Kansas is grow corn. But I would just like to mention, in my defense, that that's like their number one state economy thing. So, I mean, it may not be all they do, but it is their number one thing. So, or agriculture is. Maybe not specifically corn. So, well, you thought it was funny, Fran. Well, you're not from Kansas. The Kansanians were really up in arms about it. Now, my mom is from Kansas, and my uncle still lives there, and he's a farmer. So these jokes are obviously not, you know, yeah. See, this is too. These are not it. These are all in good fun. Okay, that's why it's funny. Oh, it wouldn't make you mad? That's funny. I did get some complaints, Kimberly. Not from you, but I did get some Kansan complaints. So, apparently, I declared war on Kansas. Gretchen says everything she knows about Kansas. The road in front of your house is yellow brick. Well, my mom, if you ever like need a gift idea for my mom, you can get her literally anything as long as it has a Scotty dog on it. Because her first pet as a kid was a Scotty dog, a black Scotty dog, and it was named Toto. So, and she has a pair of ruby slippers. All right, I had to move over here because this is getting out of, yeah, I can't do this. Okay. This is too skinny, so it was a good idea, but it's not going to work. However, I do still have this. This is the cardstock arc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out and trace it on the back of this pattern paper. Kansas is not too exciting, but it is a good place to raise a family. Yes, absolutely. Property is not too expensive. And there's still a lot to do there. It's not like there's nothing to do in the whole state. They have some major cities, you know, it's good sports teams. Okay. All right, so now I'm just going to trace this on the back. And cut it out. This is going to go in the half moon, Linda. Okay, so technically I should now be able to just cut this out and it should be close enough. Oh, driving through Kansas at night is horrible. Yeah, if you're driving from like a state on one side of Kansas to a state on the other side of Kansas and you're just driving straight down the highway at night, it is rough because it's so flat and there's just no variation in the scenery. It's kind of like you're on, yeah, that is actually a pretty tough experience driving all the way across the state. Like, what's another state like that? Indiana. There's a big section of Indiana where it's just like, if you're, like, again, if you're driving from one side to east, like if you're driving east to west, where it's just like nothing but soybeans for long stretches of time. You know, soybean fields. All right, so then this will go here. Yeah. Oh, I inked it before I shrinked it. But, you know, you get the idea. That's what it's going to look like. And then we're going to put the cemetery there. Ta-da! And Texas is also like this. Yes, absolutely. Texas is driving from one side of the state to the other. Oof. Yeah, there are some states. So I'm just going to do my 1/8 of an inch. Candy says she's going to skip this page. Aww. All right. Am I ever going to talk about this book? Why is this page so complicated? Okay, let's go. So here's the premise. So Uva is 59. He has a heart problem. He's been fired from his job for his heart problem. And has to take early retirement. And his wife has just died of cancer. My uncle lives in Olathe, and some of his kids live in Overland Park. And some of them work at KU, and they live in Lawrence. Um, now, and then, so he's decided that he just wants to die. All he wants is to die because he has no purpose in life and his wife is dead. He doesn't have any children, so he doesn't have any like kids or grandkids to, you know, live for or whatever. So he's decided he's going to commit suicide. And he does make several suicide attempts over the course of the book. So, you know, that is in there. And yeah, he's unsuccessful, of course, you know, and each time he's kind of thwarted by something really minor. I think that's there to show that, you know, yeah, he wants to die so he can be with his wife, but he's not fully committed to it. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, it's usually something small that prevents him from completing his suicide. The closest he probably gets is, well, he does decide when he's going to hang himself, but the rope breaks, and then he decides that he's going to kill himself with carbon monoxide in his garage, but then his neighbor breaks into his garage because she needs to go to the hospital, needs him to drive her. So, you know, and then he's going to jump in front of a train, and instead someone falls on the tracks and he rescues them instead. So, like, he has several attempts. And, you know, this is just because, yeah, he's just unhappy. He's depressed. And he doesn't feel like he has anything to live for. And he doesn't feel like he has any community. And I think one of the, you know, main messages of the book is like this, that the way that we treat and think of, you know, the elderly, not that I don't necessarily think 59 is elderly, but what, you know, but he is ill. So, okay. Is that we need to reflect on that because, you know, what about people who don't have a family to look after them? How are we as a society going to handle that? You know, and we need to think about really like humane ways to deal with that. There we go. So that's the page. All right, we made it. We made it. Woo, we made it. And to, you know, really ask, like, could we be doing this better? Or do we even have a good plan in place? Because one of the plots is his neighbor across the street has Alzheimer's. And, you know, the social workers who are working on his case are all completely corrupt. So, and don't care, you know, about him or his family or anything, which, you know, because there's a lot of government corruption in the book, just in general. It's not just the social workers who are corrupt. It's like pretty much everyone who works for the government. And that's another major theme of the book, which is, you know, what's the difference between fairness and justice? Or, you know, wrong and legal? You know, that's like a huge part of the book is, you know, given over to the kind of asking that question as well. You know, because, you know, Uva has struggled with the government his whole life, and he's just trying to be a normal person, you know, like he's not trying to go do anything weird. He's not a criminal. All right. So. All right, we made it. We got the thing on here. So now I think maybe I want like some kind of border strip going across. So let's go find the border strips. So I think something like this might be a bit better, like this Happy Halloween one. Or, ooh, a haunting we will go, because maybe the ghosts are going to pop out and go haunting. Or this actually looks a lot, because we have that black line going straight across, it looks like the graves have something to sit on. So this one could be actually probably the best one so far. We don't want to cover up the ravens' heads either. That's another thing. All right, so I'm just gonna say that I think we'll go with this one. And what this says is chills and thrills, chills and thrills. In the same font up here, there's also chills and thrills. So this coordinates with that part at the top as well. So we'll go ahead with that, but and then maybe I want a little embellishment on the gravestones. Maybe that's what I want. Maybe I want something on the little graves. Like a kind of word embellishment or a quote embellishment. We could maybe use the haunting we will go. So there's that spooky there. Maybe this bewitched. Because it would be nice to have something orange down here so it's not just black and gray. I mean, we could definitely brighten it up by taking this and putting it up top. Because the way that this folds is this will be like this. See? Or, so we can brighten it up that way. Because there is going to be orange behind the cemetery. Because that's how it's going to look. So maybe I don't need to worry. Yeah. Ugh, that's a little busy. We'll probably go with the stripes. We'll probably go with the stripes. Okay. So let me get this stuck down. Yeah. So that's Uva's situation. He's very disconnected from his community. His neighbors annoy him. His only friend in the neighborhood he's estranged from, and he, since his wife's death or something, and has to do with cars, I guess. Whatever. So he's not connected to the neighborhood, and his biggest thing is he cares about routine and he cares about rules. And that's the situation that he's in when he gets his new neighbors, who are, he initially believes are idiots. So, because the way he meets them is they crash their trailer into the side of his house. Okay, I'm just going to put a black line with my Sharpie under this edge or along this edge. Okay. And then I'll stick this down. And his neighbors have 2 small kids, and they're constantly getting in his business because, just because they need stuff and they ask for his help. So like they need their radiators drained, you know, the husband doesn't know how to do it. So the wife asks Uva. They need to be driven to the hospital because the husband injures himself. You know, so the wife asks Uva. And so he is gradually, through these neighbors, drawn more and more into what's going on with the rest of the community. And that's how he finds out that social services is trying to take his neighbor who has dementia away from his home. And that and things like that. So the book's like a lot happens in the book. Oh, I'm going to cut this out, but I'm going to leave the tape on it in case I want to. But it's not so much important like what exactly happens. It's more about everyone's on like journeys, you know. And particularly Uva's on a journey. And it's one of isolation. And it's somewhat self-imposed because he doesn't get along with a lot of people. But he doesn't get along with... It's not that he doesn't get along with people because he's like a bad person. He just is kind of... You know, he has such a strict moral code of like what he thinks is fair. And, you know, how people should be self-reliant and things like that. So he's kind of isolated by that. Yeah, he definitely needs to be needed. Like, he needs to feel useful. That's for sure. I agree, Gretchen. You know, and while his wife was alive, he felt useful because he... You know, before she got cancer, she was injured in an accident, and she was in a wheelchair. So she, you know, he had, like, he threw himself into, like, fighting the government to get, like, a wheelchair ramp put in at the school where she taught and things like that. Yes, he's very opinionated. He's very strongly opinionated. Like, I think one of the things that's kind of throughout as like a little joke, but as part of it is, you know, the sob thing. Like if you have a card that's not a sob, then you're dead to him. That's it. That's like that. You might as well. That's it. It's over. You know, like, and it's not such a big thing yet to get all upset about. You know. All right, so we're just going to see how this looks now that I've cut it out. So the sob thing is this running joke. I don't think this adds enough, so I'm going to leave it off. And then we'll just put the stripes behind it, and that'll provide color. And he really hates BMWs. Yes. And there was a whole thing where Saab got bought at the end. Did I remember that happen? Somebody acquired Saab, and that was like... That was a whole thing. But yeah, he really hated BMW. That was... BMW was like... You know, that was the worst of them all, right? I mean, he even liked the Toyota more than he liked the BMW, I thought. Yeah, it did happen. Yeah, okay. Yeah, Saab got acquired by somebody, and that was just like, it was horrible, horrible. So the Saab thing was really funny, but the Saab thing, that was the connection to his father, you know. And I think it showed how, like, the relationships he did have, how important his relationships were to him. So the Saab thing was, you know, it was a good piece of writing because while it was funny and it allowed for some comic relief in what could have been a very dark story, you know, it also was a way to connect him to his father. And then that's also how he made his connection to his father-in-law. And his neighbor, the young kid who's trying to fix up the bicycle because he wants to get a girlfriend, you know, he has that sob connection. Aiden is his name. Aiden. He has that sob connection with him, and it's through the connection over the bicycle, like that he meets the kid who needs a home, and then he, you know, provides a home to this homeless kid, and then, you know, his neighbor meets him, the kid, and falls in love with him, and they adopt a kid, and it's like he has, so he has, like, he forges these connections through these like kind of interesting things. Okay, so now what we need to do is we just need to figure out what size this is here, you know, and put a pattern of paper on it. And I think it's the same size. I think it's 7.5 by 8.5. No, it's yeah, 7.5 by 8.5. So 7.25 by 8.25, and I'm just going to use that stripe because I thought it was cute. So yeah, one of the things I want to say just about Bachman's writing in general is this book has a simplistic tone, but that it doesn't mean that it's a simple book. I found it to be wrestling with a lot of complex themes when I read it, because the mortality stuff was huge, of course, the need for community and helping our neighbors, and how, you know, human beings are social creatures, and, you know, much of our evolution as a species has come about from living in society. And so, you know, it would seem as though that's something that's really important to us. And like now, I think, you know, people are feeling very isolated, and not just specifically now because of what's going on in the world, but even just say 2 years ago, you know, in 2018, a simpler time, people still were feeling kind of isolated, I think. And, you know, you read so many articles. Hold on. 7.25 by 8.25 is the size that this piece of paper needs to be. And so that's going to go here. And we'll stick that down. Okay. Yeah, I would say that possibly even people with children are isolated these days. I read a thread where older people were talking about how people just like won't even answer their door anymore. You know, like they just won't answer their door. That they're even afraid to answer their door, even though, you know, it's not like times, again, maybe not this instant, but maybe in 2018 or whatever. Yeah, with the friend with dementia, I don't know what, I know Uva asked what the kids were doing or not doing, rather, you know, because he was like, well, where are the kids on this? So that was something that he had a question about. Because they did have kids, but the kids moved on and grew up and had their kids in their families or whatever. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a line of tape close to the edge but not on the edge, and then I'm going to put liquid glue on that edge because it's the one that tucks under. I want to have liquid glue. Well, so Gretchen says I don't answer my door because it's usually a salesperson or a religious zealot. Right, because your neighbors aren't visiting you anymore, you know, or you may not even know your neighbors. Like, I'm just thinking about the difference in how my parents' neighborhood is now and how my parents' neighborhood was when I was a kid. And when I was a kid, which was granted 30 years ago, so it was a while, they had block parties. All the neighbors knew everyone. I mean, kids could run in and out of everyone's house, you know, everyone was keeping an eye on everyone. And, you know, I'm not going to say like that's necessarily totally possible now. It's just that we're so far from it, you know. Like, I can't imagine. I mean, I don't have kids, so it makes some sense for me to be somewhat isolated from my neighborhood because I don't have kids to go around. But, you know, you really don't know. And we're renters, so we don't make as much of an effort as maybe we could. But yeah, it's just weird, you know. It's just weird. I don't know. It's very different. And I think that that's something that Uva is dealing with because, you know, he was so involved with the neighborhood watch or whatever, or the village council or whatever. And now he's not really as much anymore. Yeah, I don't know. I do think people are very isolated. And I do think we maybe have an impression from social media that we're not totally isolated because we are in communication with people, right? I mean, you are in communication with me right now. You're saying, you're typing stuff and I can read it and I know what you think about, you know, the topic we're discussing, that sort of thing. And, you know, you can communicate online, but the question, you know, and that's something Uva is not doing, obviously, you know, but that's I think that's one of the questions the book is asking is like the people who aren't communicating online, you know, how many people still have strong relationships outside their family? And yes, kids are different today too. You know, yeah. Like, you know, video games existed when we were kids, but not to the same extent and accessibility that they exist now. All right, so that's how it closes. Like this. Yay! We did it. So that's what it looks like. Now what I'm thinking is, do I want to put like... Yeah, summer in the park. So Candy says, we've lived here for 16 years. There's a small woods behind the house across the street from us. Yesterday was the first time hubby walked through it when we were kids. We would have spent the summer in the park. No one plays there now. Doesn't seem right. Hikikomori. I don't recognize that condition just based on the name. Is that... I'll Google it and I'll read a definition to the chat. Okay, in Japan, hikikomori means pulling inward and being confined, and is a form of acute social withdrawal. The people who have it are reclusive adolescents or adults who withdraw from society and seek extreme degrees of isolation and confinement. The word refers to the phenomenon and the people. And estimates suggest that 500,000 Japanese youths have become social recluses, as well as 500,000 more middle-aged individuals, so 1 million people. Interesting. So they just don't want to see anyone, not even like their family. Appears to affect both genders equally. Most cases reported from middle and upper middle class families. Usually caused by one or more traumatic episodes of social or academic failure. Huh. Huh. Yeah, it does sound like it has to do with their, just like, as, like, I'm not an expert on this at all. I'm just scrolling through Wikipedia. But it does sound like some of the people who study it think it has something to do with some of the cultural features of Japan, including tendencies towards conformity and collectivism, and then like really overprotective parents, and then the way that their educational, housing, and economic systems run. So it does sound like there's a number of cultural factors that are leading towards it. And I remember when I was in high school, there was a big thing with a lot, it was on the news a lot, how overpressured the Japanese high school students were to perform well on those exams they take at the end of the year, and that suicide was very high. And I don't know if that's ever been addressed, you know, if they've that, so I don't know. But yeah. So, but yeah, I think it's not like it's not just, I don't think that this isolation problem is something that's just happening in Sweden, for example, which is where Frederick Backman is from and where Uva is from. And it's not just happening in the US, you know, it's not just happening in Japan. So yeah, I do think that we need, I think, like, the way I think of it is that right now we're in a period where things are changing so much. It's like an industrial revolution of sorts. You know, it's like when you think about how much the Industrial Revolution changed the way people lived their lives, and the way people, even just geographically, where they lived and how they fed themselves, and, you know, what they did all day. You know, it's instead of weavers being people literally working in their cottages, you know, weaving for their town, weaving was done by these massive machines that needed a bunch of, you know, people to run them. And so everyone had to move to the city where the machine was, you know, and so then those towns collapsed. And we have similar stuff happening now with social media, and particularly now, where some people aren't even leaving their house to work anymore. So I think that, like, Bachman is talking about, like, Uva is experiencing this, you know, to a very local degree. You know, he's dealing with it, experiencing it. Okay, so before so yeah, this community aspect was the part of the book I found the most intriguing, because I was just thinking about, like, how it must be to be, you know, imagine Uva in the pandemic. You know what I mean? Like when I was reading the book, I was really struck by, like, how are people coping with this who don't have family to rely on? Are they coping? If they're not coping, how do we know? You know, like, there was definitely a lot of, you know, questions that I had. Okay, so do we want to put anything on the stripe, or do we just want to leave the stripe as is? What do you think? Like, I could probably put, oh, I can't get two 4x6 photos across. That's fine. That's fine. I could get one. I could probably do a 5x7 or whatever. So while I'm thinking about that, what we need to do is we do need to cover this. And so what we need to do is we need to have adhesive just from here down and just on the arch, okay? And we need to glue a piece of pattern paper, like, pattern side down, so that when you see the back here, you see pattern. And then we need to glue a piece of paper on top of it, pattern side up, all right? So we're going to glue two pieces of paper down here. So what we want here is we're going to glue one pattern face down and upside down so that it'll be right side up and facing forward. And then the other one we'll do to, well, maybe we'll just do 2 photos. Because, I mean, I don't know why I'm doing this because I still don't have enough room to do 2 photos. So, okay, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. All right. Okay, so do we want to do one vertical 5x7 or one horizontal 5x7? I'll let you vote on that while I find a pattern to go behind the spookies. To go behind the little spooky spooks. To show. And I'm just going to use these skulls. Yeah, society respects couples to raise their children by themselves. That's not how it used to be. Young parents had aunts, uncles, and siblings to help them and give them a break. Yes. Yeah, that's true too. Kim. Absolutely. Hi, Dar. How are you? I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah. Well, and multi-generational houses used to be more, okay, so if you want the photo to be, 7x5, okay, so it would be going across, type of 1. And if you want the photo to be 5x7, so it would be a portrait sticking up, type of 2. So 5x7 horizontal is, a 1, and 5x7 portrait. So landscape is a 1, portrait is a 2. This one I don't need to ink because it's going face down. So it's going to go face down. So when you pull this away, you're going to see those skulls. Okay? You're going to see those skulls. So with this one, I'm going to put tape all the way around it, and then I'm going to glue, around, put the glue down here. So I'm going to just do one piece of tape running from side to side. And then I'm going to put glue, again, put it on the front of this. Thank you. Dar, this is All Hallows Eve by Paper Phenomenon. And it's available digitally now, too, I think. Is the tape too high? No. The tape just needs to be below the dots. Make your tape below your dots. So as long as your tape is below your dots, you're okay. And then put tape all the way around the outside. So yeah, like the isolation is, of parents, they're of extended families, everyone's living so far apart from each other. And yeah, there's just a lot. And it's hard to do it all. Plus what you're expected to do because, the like requirements for everything keep going up and up and up, right? Like I was just thinking about like what you have to be able to do to be a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old, or like you can't just because of social media there's so much pressure to be fashionable and to have a good haircut and to, you know, be able to do makeup and to, you know, whatever, to dress snazzy, to do this, to do that. And honestly, like, I was not a fashion icon when I was a kid. I know that's hard for you to believe, but when I was 12, I was not a fashion icon. So, you know, I just can't even imagine what it's like now. All right, so absolutely no glue inside the circle, of course. All right. And then remember, upside down and face down. And this piece, you could even make it like 8 by 7. You don't have to make it Did I have colorful hair then? No, I did not. See? Perfect. So now when you pull this up to tuck this in, you're going to see a little sneaky peekaboo of those skulls. There you go. Yeah, I didn't do makeup until I was in college either, Joyce. I did not do makeup until I was in college. Now I think I might have had highlights in my hair when I was in high school, but that was the most. So I just can't imagine the pressure that's on girls now to be so presentable all the time, you know, instead of just being a kid. So, I don't know. It's tough. So yeah, I had a lot of empathy too for the young family that lived next door to Uwe, and just think about how much help they needed from him throughout the course of the book, you know, and what would they have done if he hadn't lived next door to them? They would have had to hire someone to, you know, they would have had to hire someone to fix their radiator or whatever it was that he had to do for them, like all this kind of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't have an answer really, you know, but I thought the book highlighted some, or pointed out some interesting issues in regards to that. So I'm going to cut a piece of black cardstock to 7 3/8 by 8 3/8, and I'm going to glue it over this just to help stiffen up this piece, give it a little bit more stability, and also to make it black again so we can put pattern paper on top of it. This is optional. You don't really have to worry about this, but I think I'm just going to want it to be a little bit more secure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and like every mistake they made is now recorded for eternity. I mean, think about that too. Like on top of the additional pressure that social media puts on you, it also creates the issue of every mistake you make is recorded for all eternity, you know. So I think like from kids to the elderly to the sick, like I think we definitely have like a major social issue happening right now, and I think Bachman is really highlighting it very well in this book. I found it very thought-provoking. I thought the community the community aspect of the book, the questions about community were very interesting. You know, and I was like, maybe I should go introduce myself around to my neighbors. So, but then I didn't, because it's, you know, because of the current situation. So, but yeah, that was a huge element of it. And then wrapped up into it, see, so it's not just two separate issues where the mortality issue is not one issue and the community issue is not another. You know, Bachman connects them to each other so well, because Uwe, you know, part of the reason he wants to die is because his community died with his wife, or so he thinks, you know, or so he thinks. So he feels like, just because he doesn't know his neighbors, he literally doesn't feel like life is worth living. And that, you know, that's horrible to contemplate, that could be the reality for however many people, you know. Okay, so it looks like horizontal one. So I'm going to get a 5.5 by 7.5 piece of cardstock and put a photo mat on it. And what if we did the 5.5 by 7.5 mat, but we still did a 4 by 6 photo, and we snuck another pattern of paper in here, in between the photo and this big photo mat? That could be fun. And just center it like so. Let's do this. Grab a scrap of paper, and I'm going to put a black Sharpie line around my photo mat so that it has its own little kind of little skinny mat. But I don't need to add another layer. This is one of the envelopes for my sister's wedding that didn't work out quite right. All right, so I'm going to put some pattern paper on this. Or I'm going to put some tape on this, and I'm going to put some tape on this, and then we'll pick a pattern of paper. So yeah, I loved how Bachman showed that, you know, we need so many more people. Like, we don't just need our spouse and our kids, you know, or we don't just need our parents. Like, there were so many people needed, people needed their neighbors too. You know, that was also important. You know, and so I thought that was like a really good message that he had there. I mean, Uwe couldn't have helped his neighbor Rune if he hadn't met that reporter, you know, and if he hadn't known the reporter, and he knew the reporter because he saved a guy from killing himself at the train, or from dying at the train station. So when he went to the train station to kill himself, someone fell on the tracks, and Uva jumped down on the tracks to help the guy out, and then that's why he didn't commit suicide that time. And so, you know, a reporter was there and found out about it, and she wants to do a like feel good story on him, which he refuses. But then, you know, when he needs help uncovering this sketchy social worker, the reporter is there to help him deal with the local, the corrupt local politician. And so, like, you know, you do need to get by. You need so much more support, you know, than we think, really. All right, should we do flowers or should we do bats? What do you think? I think I like the flowers better. We're going to do flowers. So 5 1/4 by 7 1/4 of this. So yeah, that was a lot to think about. For sure. For sure. But yeah, it really made me think that there are a lot of ways in which technology has made our lives better and easier, but it's not a total positive, you know, and I think eventually as a society we'll learn to cope. It's just that we're in a period of rapid change, right? And so we just happen to be living through the Industrial Revolution. I mean, you want to be the people who live after the Industrial Revolution has settled down, right? But that's not what we are. We are the Industrial Revolution. That's us. So, you know, we have to go through the upheaval that changes our society and hopefully come out with something good on the other side. And it's just going to take time. Yes, so Priya said that she thinks that it's good that all the people and situations that annoyed him, he needed all of them to help with the corrupt social worker who was trying to put his friend in a home because he had a deal with the home. So he was getting money from the home to put people into it. So, and so, yeah, like in other words, Uva couldn't have done anything about the social worker on his own, you know. And, you know, every time we had a number of situations in the book where Uva had to fight the law. And of course the law won. Willie Nelson, you know, he knows. But but at the end, when he has this bigger community and he's brought all these people have come, well, he hasn't brought them in. These people have forced their way into his circle. You know, he needs every single one of them at the end to help. And all the people end up being like, you know, end up being integral in him saving his neighbor. So it takes a village basically to save Rune. It takes the whole village to save Rune from the corrupt politician. And, you know, and this kind of working together, oh gosh, why can I not remember to ink anything today? What's my deal? It is probably due to lack of kitty support. You're right, Fran. You're right. It's because there are no kitties helping me today. I've been abandoned by kitties. Okay, that's pretty. Okay, so that looks really nice. Love it. All right, so let's peel the tape. Yeah, I don't know. Well, Tiny is a little cranky today. Tiny doesn't feel like she's gotten the appropriate amount of snuggles this week. She started voicing her complaints yesterday. We did try to rectify the situation, but of course it was already too late. You know, so we're working with a deficit of pets right now. Working our way through a deficit of pets. We're trying our best, but we have been found wanting, very much wanting. In the affection department. Also, so then she's also been complaining about her food. Not because she doesn't like her food, because she likes her food just fine, but because she didn't get the right amount of pets, she's gonna complain about everything. You know. Okay. So she has an extremely hard life, as we all know. It's very difficult to be Tiny. Okay, so that's this page here. So to refresh your memory, what is going on with it is, so you open it, like this, and then inside it we have these things that we're going to decorate. So we're going to decorate up here. We're going to decorate down here. We're going to decorate the side flaps. We're going to decorate the back. And then we're also going to decorate 3 mats, or 3 8x10 pages that are going to sit inside of it. So when we come back tonight, we will work on doing all that decorating. And we're going to be adding, photos and all that. So, and we'll talk about the book more, because we've touched on, I think, one of the main themes of the book. But I do still want to talk about, I do want to talk a little bit more about the government and community versus bureaucracy, and that, because that was a huge theme. And I do think it's important, because I do think that the breakdown in our community and the breakdown in our relationships with our neighbors does make it harder for us to organize against abuses by local and even federal government. And I do think that is important, is an important message in the book as well, that is going on there. But I definitely thought it was a really good book. I hope everyone enjoyed it. I certainly did. I also read by Frederick Backman this year, and Every Day the Way Home Grows Longer and Longer. That is the whole title. And Every Day the Way Home Grows Longer and Longer. That also is about dementia. So, and then I've heard that his new book that just came out, Anxious People, is also really good. I've heard that Anxious People is really good also. So yeah. But yeah, I'm very happy to have read A Man Called Uva. I think that was a really good choice. So good job picking it. And it's somewhat worrying. some of the things it makes you think about are somewhat worrying. But I think that there is a level of discomfort sometimes that comes from writers who really put their finger on something important that needs to be addressed. Thank you, Dar. And so, you know, every once in a while it is good to read a book that really makes you sit with some discomfort and to ask yourself some questions, you know. So and I do think that that is important. So, and I think next month we'll have a little bit of a break, and then in December we'll have to talk about the Industrial Revolution and capitalism and social welfare again. So I'll give you get a month off. You get December off, and then we're gonna and then we'll be right back to it, because Charles Dickens is coming, and he lived through it. You know, that he went through it. So so if we're going to do a Christmas Carol, we're going to talk about a Christmas Carol in December, and we're going to talk about a book inspired by a Christmas Carol in December. So we'll talk about 2 books. And yeah, definitely, Charles Dickens, he he had a lot to say about the times that he lived in, you know, because he, like us, lived in the revolution, right? You know, he did. So we have something in common with him. So that's something to think about when we do the book based on A Christmas Carol, is to think about what about those books apply to now, maybe, you know, because we are living in a similar time. So, but yeah, A Man Called Uwe by Frederick Bachman was a lot of fun. I'll be back tonight, and we'll probably talk about the book some more, because I do, like I said, I do want to touch on some additional themes. I'll be back at 9 p.m. Eastern USA time, which is 5 hours from now. So whatever time it is where you are, just add 5 hours to that, and that is when I'll be back. And we will continue with this insert, or I guess it's on the outside. So we'll continue with this element for our table display folio for Halloween. So more Halloween tonight. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I'll see you later. Have a wonderful evening. To those of you who are overseas, who are headed to dinner or headed to bed, have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week. To the rest of you, I'll see you later. Everyone have a great afternoon. Bye now.